So we got Kass and Mike Lazerow in the house. They both started off young on their entrepreneurial journey. Kass was selling barrettes in school for $200 every Christmas, and Mike was entrepreneur shoveling snow, $25 for the driveway and $10 for the walkway. So we know where he made his margins. But as they grew up and got more professional, they started golf.com, sold it to Time Warner, started VaynerMedia, sold it to Salesforce for $745 million, which is a wild number. Congratulations. And they've invested in over 100 different businesses as advisors, as angel investors. Famously, Gary Vee, friend of the channel, has been on multiple times, started VaynerMedia out of the conference room of Kass and Mike's Buddy Media office. So not many people can say that they helped Gary Vee get their start. They've got a new book out. Now, Mike doesn't drink and I don't swear, so I'll let them say the name of their book. And it's about the 50 cheat codes for entrepreneurs. Kass and Mike Lazerow, welcome to Movie Makers.
Thank you so much for having us. I really appreciate it.
You guys want to drop the name of the book since I didn't?
Yeah. So it's called Shoveling Shit, a love story about the entrepreneur's messy path to success.
I love it. So Movement Makers, this group here, they're entrepreneurs or thought leaders, people trying to build their brand, change the world with their message, build a business as well. We talk a lot about YouTube and building your brand. And I thought I'd start with interviewing you guys for about half hour or so and then throwing it open to Q&A for the last hour just to, I know you guys love doing the Q&A and helping people out. And so Movement Makers, get your questions ready because you got two geniuses in the house. Let's start with this. Writing the book, you guys have done so much behind the scenes. You've helped so many entrepreneurs behind the scenes. You're well known in certain circles, but now building a book. Why the book? Why now? And is this part of some bigger plan you have to impact in a more public way?
I think you just hit it right there, Evan. So yes, we basically spent the first 50 years, creating. So we were creating a reputation, we were earning our names out there, and the work ethic, spending our time just developing our reputation. And we want the next 50 years to be about impact. We had so many people who helped us along the way, and now it's all about giving back to the entrepreneurial community.
So the book is phase one, I guess. What's coming next for you two?
Yeah, so the book is phase one. The last 50 years has been all about earning, so degrees and reputation and money. And the next 50 years is just about impact. And we think that how we scale that is getting the ideas that we speak to our entrepreneurs about. We have about 100 entrepreneurs we've invested in, and there's nothing better to see them succeed. One of them went public yesterday, a company called eToro, which we have been there from the beginning. And we want to do what we've done on the investment side as entrepreneurs at a much bigger scale. And so what this book is the 50 cheat codes that not only kind of helped us in business, but helped us in life. If you're going to succeed in business and you're miserable in life, what's the point, right? And so a lot of the cheat codes have to do with how we built our relationship, how we built other relationships that mattered, how we tried to stay healthy, which was a constant battle. I have an artificial heart valve, and I've dealt with kind of heart issues my whole life. And it's really walking that line between, as an entrepreneur, it's miserable, full of suffering, there's unlimited work, and it's awesome. There's nothing else we'd rather do, right? So we feel blessed to be able to do this kind of work, and it's never easy. It's never up and to the right. And we tried to capture that with the title and the story. So yes, it's shoveling shit, which is what we do every day, but it's also a love story. It's our love story and the love story we have for all entrepreneurs, really.
So this group here, they're people who have a business, they're trying to build their brand, they have a message for the world. If you each had to pick your most relevant cheat code from the 50 for this group, what would you pick?
I know what Mike's going to pick, but mine's going to be radical transparency with everybody that's in your company. So one of the things that we learned through many, many different failures is, when you start a company, whatever the idea is in the beginning, it's not going to be the idea that you end up with. And so you're going to have lots of pivots. You're going to have these like mini micro failures every single day. And so the way to keep the glue together with all the teams that you have and the wheels on the bus is with transparency in all your communication. And we've had many successes with this, and we learned the biggest lesson when we were at golf.com, and the company that acquired us ended up going bankrupt within 4 months. And we had to go and tell all of our employees, hey, even though we just said like, oh my God, we were acquired and this company who bought us was going public, they're pulling us into bankruptcy. We're starting the company over. And oh, by the way, we don't have any money to pay you for the next 3 months while we try to go raise money. And because we were so transparent, and that was just like from the core within us, we said like, there's no reason to hide stuff with anybody. They all stayed. Not one person quit, and not one person got paid for 3 months, including ourselves. So I would go with transparency. It is the super glue that keeps teams there.
And I would just point out that focus has been our number one cheat code. We didn't know about this when we started, but you can do anything you want. You just can't do everything at once. And so how we focus is, we outline in the book, and it's how we do it for companies, how we do it for ourselves. How do you know kind of what's important, what's going to help you reach your vision? And that's what we outline. And if an entrepreneur is super focused, they can accomplish anything they want. If they're not focused or focused on the wrong things, it's not going to end well. And we've seen it just over and over again. So we're big believers in do less to do more. So say no as much as you can. If it's not helping propel you toward your vision and what you want to achieve, then just get rid of it.
Kass, was that the one you thought Mike was going to say?
Exactly the one I thought he would say. Yeah.
I love it. Okay, Mike, my OCD is taking over. It looks like your calendar covers the door. How do you get
this
out
is
of the office?
the best trick ever that he did.
Yeah, so I live in New York City. We don't have what's called space, right? Like I grew up in the suburb. And so we're constantly fighting. And so what I did is I put it up and then I just cut a hole in the middle. I just cut it in half. So half is on one side of the door, half's on the other side of the door. I have windows on this side. There's no other place in my office I could put it. So when in doubt, just be creative.
Yeah, I like it. Well, to your point of focus, I thought it's like, okay, we just lock Mike in his room until those things on the calendar get done.
Well, the good news about the calendar is whether we like it or not, the sun rises and the days progress, time flies by. And part of focus is putting it on the calendar. And I'm not talking just like prioritizing work. Kass and I, for 20 some years, have had date nights every Wednesday and Saturday nights. There are now probably 50 entrepreneurs that we've worked with that have done the same.
And by the way, we have so many of them that text Mike pictures of date night on Wednesdays and Saturdays, which is really awesome.
So I wasn't planning on going here, but usually when talking to couples as entrepreneurs, is the one who's like the crazy one and the other who's the organized one, but you both have calendars behind you. So it seems like you're focused and organized, but how do you no? Okay, Kass is shaking her head. So how do you guys break that up?
I would say I'm definitely more the focused, organized one. I'm more of the operator. And Mike is the vision, wakes up, turns over and says, I've got an idea. He's that guy.
So you're the focus one, but Mike's main cheat code was focus.
Yes.
It's harder for me. And for a lot of entrepreneurs who are more of the sales and product and vision, we get excited. We see stuff. We got to do that. We got to do that. I got to take this meeting. And I think I've learned a lot from Kass in terms of how to focus while still not losing who I am as a person.
So people are asking again what the name of the book is. And
it's Shoveling Shit, a Love Story, available for pre-order at shovelingshit.com and amazon.com.
Cool. And we'll link that up in the description as well for people to go get. Let's talk about brand. So page 184 of the book, you say building a comprehensive brand strategy. And it says building a brand is more than just creating a logo and tagline. A comprehensive marketing plan consists of 3 legs of the marketing stool: developing your brand strategy, creating your brand identity, and executing your brand marketing. So for the people here who are trying to build their brand, how do you break that down? What are the, if we want to go just dial in a little bit on those 3 elements a little more, what should we be thinking?
Yeah. For sure. So we run across a lot of different founders who think that marketing is just like, let's go create the logo, let's create the colors and the fonts, and then let's just move on. But you really need a comprehensive strategy that creates the actual feeling that a brand can give to their consumer or their customer. So, the greatest brands in the world, you don't necessarily buy things because it's the best, but you buy it because it's the way they make you feel, right? When you have that product. So when you're selling a product or service, you need to think about like what do you stand for, right? Like what is it that you want to say to the community that you want them to buy because of what, right? So you've got to come up with that whole messaging platform. And it's not just like your tagline. So, like, whatever it is, like, it's not just Nike, just do it. It was the feeling that Nike gave about behind that tagline, right? Just do it meant that anything was possible. So you're really trying to achieve that inner emotional feeling when it comes to a brand. And then you come up with the strategies, which is called marketing tactics, that you're going to push out. Now, that could be anything from, okay, you're doing paid advertising, right? That's just like one little small part of it. But it also is, what's your elevator pitch? How do you say what your company is in less than 3 sentences, in less than 30 seconds, so someone knows what you are immediately? You're at a dinner party, you got to know how to say it. You're on the stage, doing some thought leadership at a conference, you got to know how to say it. And it's got to be the same thing every single time. And then it's about how do you explain the benefits? Why would someone want to purchase your service or product? And again, it's got to give you a unique selling position, right? We call it the USP, unique selling proposition. Like, what is it that you're doing that is better than everyone else, that hits those pain points of all your consumers?
So as you're now building your brand, right? This book is by Kass and Mike Lazerow. It's not by VaynerMedia or any other company. How would you describe your brand that the two of you are creating together?
So I think we were known as a pair, but I will say over the last 28 years of working together, I really pushed Mike forward and I wanted him to be the thought leader. So for all of the people that are on this, we started from scratch. Like last July, we launched Kass and Mike, 0 followers on any platform. Yes, we were kind of well known individually, more so Mike's side than me. And now I think, it's uncomfortable. We create content every single day. Don't go back and look at the first couple of weeks. It was pretty bad. But I think we're doing okay. It's scary, but you got to do it. You got to put in the reps.
And so how would you define your brand?
When we started, we tried to force it, right? We thought about who do we want to be and what kind of content. And, we did our hair. We looked better. And we just realized that we are who we are. And every time we tried to be someone else, we realized that was taken. And it wasn't until we let go and we just said, let's just be ourselves, share both who we are personally and what we believe and who we are professionally. And that's when it became more comfortable and we just connected with more people. And so it's been a slow build. We're just beginning. So give us 5 more years. Like we're in no rush. But we reached over 1 million people last month. We know what's resonating. What's great about social content is unlike the content that I grew up with. I went to journalism school and I thought I was going to be a journalist, back when journalists exist and actually reported, facts. And I wasn't very good at that, but you didn't get feedback. So I'd write something for the Delaware State News or Roll Call on Capitol Hill, and it would just be crickets unless you made a mistake and then you knew about it, which I made a lot of mistakes. That's why I wasn't very good at it. The feedback, the instant feedback, the people we've met, the community we've built in a very short amount of time has been really rewarding, and it's going to be part of our impact going forward.
I'd like to answer the question though, Mike. What do we stand for? I think we stand for raw, unfiltered expertise in shoveling every single day as an entrepreneur, resilience. Um, you know, we're in this. I think there's a brand of like authenticity, and also kind of we're in this with you together.
What I love about it is there's a lot of entrepreneurs who've gone on, had successful companies, had a big exit, they write a book, and then they kind of disappear. You never hear from them again. It's like, okay, check the box, did the book thing, next, and then go back into hiding. Whereas you guys seem like you're actually trying to build something now in public and really help. And all the lessons you learn from obviously your own businesses, but the 100+ companies that you've invested in and supported along the way. And so I'm super excited to catch you at the early stages of this and can't wait to see what actually happens in the next 5 years.
Thanks, Evan.
Well, thank you.
How are you guys dealing with the non-instant success? And maybe the answer is just we just keep shoveling, because a lot of people who have had a lot of money and had big exits, even a lot of our members, right? They're successful entrepreneurs already, people on this call. Then they go and they start their YouTube channel. And it's like they're not very good on camera. They're putting in the reps. They don't get instant views. It's like, wow, it's a very humbling experience to basically be starting over in a brand new field where you know that you're good. Like, you know, your ideas are good, your content is good. When you meet people one-on-one, you know you change their lives and have these big wow aha moments, but then it's not translating into quality video and results yet. And a lot of people quit because that's a very humbling experience. And so, one, I would love to see you guys keep going and doing it, because I think what you bring to the entrepreneur community is amazing. And how are you thinking through that ego check, I guess, at the early humbling days of making content?
I definitely think, like Mike said, it was very humbling to kind of start over. But I think entrepreneurs have, especially if they've been doing it a while, they have a beginner's mind. They're constantly looking for feedback, because I think this community would understand that all the little mini failures that we have during the day, like, because there's so many times you just get punched in the face, it just gets us closer to figuring out what we actually want to do. So with that, you understand what suffering is, you understand what the struggle is, and then there's beauty in it. And we just keep going. Like, I love learning. And I think why we're all doing this is because it gives us purpose and passion. So despite the fact that I think Mike and I have had, some of these, oh my God, what are we doing moments? And that'll happen at least like once or twice a week. We'll both be like, what are we doing? What we do is we go back to the reps, right? Which is, okay, heads down, we're going to get better. Consistency, discipline, you just got to keep shoveling.
So you guys were acquired for $745 million, amazing number. You've invested in businesses. One just went public yesterday. Awesome, congrats.
Thanks.
How important is the brand now and the marketing in terms of people building it up to be able to get an acquisition?
We look at the brand as, a holistic thing, which is nowhere and everywhere all at once, right? Like, you can't pin it down that the brand is this, but it permeates your company culture, how you talk to investors, how you talk to your customers, obviously. And we're in a world that the only way to break through is storytelling. Like, you're not going to just buy a Super Bowl ad, right? Like, we're seed investors and Series A and B investors in Liquid Death. It's one of our most important companies, the water company. And it's, yes, started with water in a can, and now it has a bunch of different products, but it was built on storytelling. It was built on just great content. And if you don't know who you are as a brand, what the brand stands for, it becomes very dangerous. And so why Liquid Death has worked and why they could be so edgy is they understand the brand. So we launched Death Water in the middle of the pandemic, right? It's called Liquid Death. We thought we'd made the single worst investment in the history of investments when they kind of had a whole outdoor strategy and concerts and bars, and we had to retool. But what Mike did is the founder, he understood what the brand stood for. And it stood for not only getting plastic out of the ocean, but it was, how can we market with humor and in an edgy way a product that's a wellness product? It's not alcohol. There's no sugar in it. The sweetener in the teas it's agave, and it has 20 calories, right? So it's a wellness product that's marketed like Doritos and Bud Light and Mountain Dew, all these things that are like awful for you.
So I did a word count in the book, and culture or team show up 90 times in the book.
Wow.
One of those two words 90 times. Obviously, it's very important to you guys. So can you talk
Yeah.
us through, as people are building their movement, how you think about hiring and managing team? And we touched a quick bit. Kass talked about radical, authenticity. But how do you guys think through culture and team?
I wrote the chapter on culture. It's called, the first four letters of culture is cult. So I really believe that you are building a positive cult. So what does that mean with all the negative connotations with the word cult? Is that you are trying to create a team that will withstand any twist, turn, failure, pivot possible. Because when you start a company, like I said before, whatever idea you start with, there's a 99.9% chance it's not the idea you end with. There's going to have to be changes and little mini failures, like I've talked about. And so the team, which are your most valuable resources, people, you want to keep them together. And the only way to do that is to glue them together with something. And that sticky glue starts with telling them everything, which is what Mike and I have always done, which is we tell them the financials, we tell them when we've hit numbers, we tell them when we haven't hit numbers, when we lose a client, and then you give them explanations about here's the plan and we need your support doing it. People do not like surprises. They're okay with bad news, but they hate surprises. And then you've got to figure out what part of the sticky glue could be about bonding experiences, especially in this remote world. And I strongly believe, as well as Mike, that you want to get people in person as many times as you can. And if that means that the founders have to go on a roadshow and go to the different hubs around the country or even the world, then you should have a budget to do that. Because team, there's no way to do anything without a team. And lastly, we'll say this. One of the greatest parts of the glue that kept us all together is by doing good together. It wasn't just about, okay, can we have like a kickball game together? Can we go play softball? It was, what cause could we get behind that would really show that there's something bigger in this world, not just the company and not just all the little work they're doing. And we made that cause Cycle for Survival. And Mike and I have been doing this and giving back to that cause for 19 years. It raises money, 100% goes to fight rare cancer. And we were the first corporate team. And 19 years later, just this past February, we sponsored the Entrepreneur Startup Ride in New York City. And we had 35 VaynerMedia employees come back after 12 years to join us on that ride. So it's about doing good and doing well.
I love that. Now, Kass, at the start, you said you were kind of pushing Mike towards the thought leadership side, but I think you're pretty badass yourself for answering most of these questions.
Thank you. That's very nice of you to say.
Mike, you were talking about kind of watch what happens in the next 5 years. We're here, we're shoveling, we're figuring things out, but watch what happens in the next 5 years. So I'd love to hear from both of you, what is going to happen in the next 5 years? Like if it's 5-year you, what is it, 2030 coming back and saying, here's what we accomplished. What do you hope happens in the next 5 years for both of you?
I look at it a few ways. One is we're going to continue doing what we're doing right now, which is putting content out that we think is good for the world. If not now, when? And so we'll continue to do that in addition to kind of the other stuff with our communities. Number two, we're capitalists and we want to continue to build. And so I think we have done the investor thing with Velvet Sea Ventures and Lazerow Ventures, our VC firms. And what we've realized is that it's a great time to be an entrepreneur. And so we're going to be buying companies, potentially starting companies, both ourselves and with partners that we've met over the years. And everything from could be tech. We just bought a healthcare staffing firm, which is just a cash flow business, been around for 25 years, great business. I love pizza. Who doesn't like pizza? So don't be surprised if we open up pizza places. And then the third thing is the philanthropy side. So one of the great things about being successful is there is this incredible drug called philanthropy that just makes you feel great. And we are going to triple down on that. So Cycle for Survival, obviously, which we've been doing for 18 years, but also other stuff. Done a lot of stuff in education. And we look forward to getting involved with more causes.
Kass, how about you?
The next 5 years, like Mike said, to me is all about giving back. So I think my drug of choice is helping people, and not necessarily just like doing like, organizations like Cycle for Survival, but I actually like getting really hands-on, and helping people solve issues. So I love that. I look forward to that. I also I'm not looking forward to any pizza shops, Mike. I just want to tell you that we have not decided that yet. And that's really dangerous.
I think the more I say it publicly, the more Kass will get on board with the idea.
No, I think that's exactly what he's doing.
They're great businesses and they're delicious. Who doesn't like pizza? Especially in New York City.
We are not doing pizza shops.
Well, let's not make that decision in front of our friends here. Let's have a real conversation. Let me pitch it. And then
come with your PowerPoint and financials and we'll talk.
Yeah, I know that PowerPoint and Excel are your love language, so don't get me started.
It's amazing. Cool. Well, on that note of helping people, why don't we throw to some questions? We'll bring up some movie makers. All right, George, what's your question for Mike and Kass?
Mike, Kass, Everett, thank you guys for also being here too, taking the time. My question is, especially because I'm on like the newer end of my business, I'm like 10 months in. I've obviously been like rewarded for pivoting. I'm not afraid to make wholesale changes, but then when do you know it's time to like just keep doing the same thing? That's like something I just go back and forth on. Don't really know because I'm kind of I have a sales background, kind of like the visionary, definitely need someone to keep me in check. My wife helps me with that sometimes, but mostly it's just me running things. So when is it time for new? When do you pivot? When do you keep doing what you're doing?
So do you have specific goals that you're building toward? And when I say specific, like, in the next 6 months, I want to accomplish this, or the next year.
Yeah, I'm more just, for like short-term goals, I have like personal income goals for like where I want to be. Long-term though, so like with my business, like the grand mission is decommoditizing insurance. So it's like, because I'm teaching people how to sell insurance in a different way. Than just kind of like price matching and trying to save a buck. So
I found that entrepreneurs know when it's working. They may not know why. So there are a lot of companies that get product market fit and they don't really know why, but don't get in the way, right? Especially in like the tech and app world where they start to kind of see major user growth. I think the biggest mistake that I'm seeing with entrepreneurs, especially small businesses, is they don't take the time to say, like, here's what I want to be. I want to be the number one kind of insurance sales engine in my town or the country or the world. Here are the values that I hold important, right? Trustworthiness and hard work and whatever they are. And then here are the 3 things that I need to do to accomplish that vision. And once you identify those, you have to look at what are the obstacles that are going to get in your way. And then what are the metrics you're going to use to show you whether or not you've achieved that. And the problem is if you don't create metrics up front, we are optimists as entrepreneurs. And one little deal, we're crushing it. It's going so well. The business is doing well. But then you're like, oh man, I thought I'd have 10 customers, but I only have 1. So yes, I have 1 customer and let's celebrate that, but I haven't achieved what I wanted to achieve in this defined time period. And so, if you think it may be working, there's something working. Deep down in your gut, if you're like, oh man, this is not happening, rip the Band-Aid off. And we talk about this in the book because so many small businesses and large businesses are successful because of the pivot. We talk about Instagram. Kevin and Mike launched something called Bourbon. That was like this very complicated game, which was Foursquare meets a leaderboard game. And what users liked was the photo filters. When you stepped into a location, they had really cool filters for the photos, right? They went all in on that. Within a year, they were the app of the year on the App Store. So if you're going to pivot, do it fast. rip the Band-Aid off. If you're not going to pivot, lean into what's working. I shouldn't have had to learn this from Mark Benioff, but very early on, he made a comment which stuck with me, which is do more of what's working and less of what's not working, which sounds so silly to even say out loud. But as human beings, we find ourselves doing the opposite, at least myself, maybe not everyone here. Like you keep doing stuff that clearly isn't working for you, whether it's personally or professionally. And there's certain things that you ignore. That's why I stopped drinking. It wasn't working for me, but I kept doing it. And once I stopped, I was like, okay, I feel better. It wasn't like a moral thing. It was just my body felt better.
I love it. And speaking of pivots, YouTube, you talked about it on page 203 in the book. They launched on Valentine's Day. And
That's
the
right.
slogan was tune in and hook up, because it was supposed to be a dating site. And then it didn't do well. It completely flopped. And so they changed it into user-generated place for people to upload their videos. And they pivoted to something way more profitable. So I love seeing YouTube examples in the book.
Yeah, that's one of the best pivots ever.
Alex, what's your question for Kass and Mike?
Hi, Mike and Cass. Thank you for making the time for all of us. And I got so excited when, Cass, you were talking about building a cult. I was like, let's go, weird way to start it. But yeah, like my mission is to solve the world's greatest problem, which is loneliness. It's what I've struggled my whole life with. And I believe you do that through belonging. So for my dance school, which I'm at the studio right now, it's like my whole business is built on in-person experience. And so like, what's been your experience working with founders trying to engineer like referral loops? Because majority of our business is based on, oh my gosh, you want to learn to dance, you have two left feet? Come join Alex's school, and like kind of building a viral referral loop within that so that I can have 100 dance schools around the world, because that's like how I'm going to solve loneliness.
I love that. I really do. I know, Mike, you have something you want to say. I know you were about to say something to him.
How I would go about this is like expose you. You have a great personality. You're on a mission. I want to take dance lessons now, just hearing you talk. And so it's how do you expose you? How do you expose people whose lives have been changed? And I think it's storytelling for you.
Exactly.
Like you could run ads that are like, come learn to dance over and over again, right? And it's like, yeah, I'd love to learn to dance, but I also like want to learn to play golf and chess and like all these other things. Whereas if you're selling kind of belonging,
community,
right? Community, it's like, yeah, like I imagine if I walked into your studio when it's like, buzzing, it's like a self-selected group of like-minded people, right? Who, yeah, they love to dance. Like who doesn't? It's like pizza and bacon. We all love it. But some of us don't do it.
I also think that you could start to think about, especially in your town, wherever you live, you could start thinking about a referral program and doing the storytelling as content, right? So you could definitely also take paid ads, but you can do newsletters, right? You can get into other people's newsletters. And Mike's right that just saying plain messages like come to dance, come learn to dance are not going to do it. But I think if you could get some people and actually do case studies, so the video content case studies of people whose lives have been, changed and impacted in a positive way, and start cutting that up as content and using that to drive people in, I think that's the way to do it. And then once you get one of these, buzzing, then it's just go use that same formula in other cities.
Alex, how long do you think it would take you to turn Kass and Mike into amazing salsa dancers?
I'm pretty amazing as an instructor. So give me one lesson. Come to Toronto. Give me one lesson. I'll show you.
We're coming to Toronto in June. So careful what you wish for.
Done.
Yeah, we're there. We're there for a wedding in June. There's one other idea that I think everyone can take advantage of, and it's basically this concept that if you can figure out why you're different and the value you bring, and then just exploit that for the benefit of others, So hone into like, for you, it's loneliness and you really want to like, you've suffered, you want to, and expose that, and not only expose it, but, look at it as that is what's driving you. And what's interesting for all businesses is people want to belong. And I learned this from early Facebook. Everyone wants to belong and stick out and be different, which is kind of weird, right? And what better way to do that with dance, right? I belong because I'm at the studio, but I'm like a funky chicken dancer and I have my own style, right? And so maybe you do like local dancing with the like schmucks, right? Like, or dancing with the whatever, where it's a local competition where people bring in their family and they can show off, which both exposes content and, a lot of those people who show up will be like, I want to do this. This is fun.
Okay. So question, Alex, if Mike and Kass are coming to Toronto and they're going to a wedding where they're going to have to dance, if they had an hour with you, could you teach them something so Mike's not doing the funky chicken at the wedding that would impress people?
Yes, he'll be the best funky chicken while still nailing those moves.
I just made
100%.
that up. I don't want to spread rumors that that's how I dance. It's just the
You
first
do
thing
have
that
a
came to my
little,
mind.
the wings come out, Mike. Let's just be
No,
clear.
it's really like my hands get too high.
No,
Cass
your
always like, put
wings
your
start
hands in.
like this, and then you start doing this.
Really?
Okay, Alex, you might have a hard path in front of you, but you got to shovel it, right? I mean, that's
Cass,
why.
there's no shaming in Alex's studio.
No,
One
never.
rule.
Everybody belongs. That's it.
Yes,
Exactly.
Cass, you can't criticize me for every step I make.
Except the pizza shop. Just
Oh
that.
my gosh.
All right.
Totally.
Thank you, Alex.
Thank you,
Okay,
guys.
next up is Lonnie. All right, Lonnie, what's your question for Kass and Mike?
Thank you for being part of this. And I knew in the first 2 minutes, this is a great place to be. It didn't take me long to see that incredible platform, hearing incredible messages. So very grateful for the opportunity. I'm just on board for now, maybe a week or two. I'm just beginning. I'm in New York City, so I hope to meet, the team Kass and I think Michael in New York and get a chance to meet with you. So I have 3 new companies that I just recently launched, and so what's flowing through me is just incredible opportunity and ideas how to use philanthropy. I'm involved with the Big Brother organization. I was with 2 events recently, last night and week before, raising money. So I want to use that foundation, that platform, because they are short of money. Big Brothers Big Sisters has been around for 100 years. They could hardly meet payroll. I approached them last year that I wanted to do some fundraising for them. So I'm going to need some strategy and some feedback on different ideas from competent people like all of you to help to play a role and get involved with me to build something incredible. And it can't be in a more incredible place than New York City. And Evan, I think you gave me too good a deal. I was kind of feeling guilty.
Listen, if you feel like we're undercharging you, just go buy a whole bunch of Mike and Kass's books, and that's how you
Here
can
we
support.
go.
Good. That was a good comeback. Anyway, I'm delighted to
Well,
be
it's great
part
to
of
meet
this,
you.
and I'm excited to go to work to make something incredible happen in New York and for the world at large, because the world is in trouble and we all need incredible amount of love and support to do great things.
Couldn't agree more, Lonnie.
Amen.
Well said.
Yep, and don't forget that. So we have to remember who the boss is here. So this young lady that's on the camera now, she said it straight. She said, "Don't do pizza. Don't be messing with pizza." I'd be very careful about that.
Lonnie, you're a smart man. You're a smart man. I think you're realizing who runs the show over here. But you need both the craziness and the ability to operate. And luckily, Kass is a professional realist.
So to Lonnie's question around philanthropy, how do you guys think about it? How do you put more eyes on it? How do you get more support through it? You guys do a ton in the community. So what are your views on getting more eyeballs on philanthropy?
So I think the best thing that you can do is if you have a company, you've got to pick an organization that you really love, that really hits, close to your heart, and then go all out and try to get everyone involved. And I'm not just saying like try to raise dollars, right? That can be something that is the product of doing good. But there was a feeling that we all had when we all showed up together at one of these Cycle for Survival rides. They're indoor cycling events. And it was a feeling of togetherness that what we do on a daily basis is not the main goal here, that there's bigger things that are happening. So the way to get more eyeballs and to answer that question is just start the movement within your own organization, within your community, within your friend group, and great things happen. Cycle for Survival started because one of our friends was diagnosed with a rare cancer. Rare cancers mean that it's just underfunded. She did that in an equinox illegally, I might say. She got a group of friends and just started cycling, hoping she could raise, $10,000. That first ride, she raised $50,000. The movement now, 19 years later, has raised $400 million that goes straight to clinical research and trials that are saving hundreds of thousands of lives now. It all starts with you leading by example as a founder.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Lonnie, for the question. Chris, what's your question for Kass and Mike?
You have good speakers and good guests when like your heart skips a beat. Like I'm getting that entrepreneurial thing in my stomach where it's like, man, I'm not doing enough. So
Hey, wait, you were doing a little bit of the funky chicken there as you were moving.
The funky, was it this
around,
one?
so.
Was it this? I can't get my hands in here, but I was trying to do it. Okay. Okay, so the question is this. I have a personal vendetta. This is going to sound really bad, but against AI. I'll explain it for a second. So the question, I guess, guys, is how do you battle today's wolf cry with the AI revolution? So everyone's like, oh, it's gonna put out a bunch of jobs, and my personal vendetta against this AI revolution is that, and you're all gonna maybe disagree, who knows, but that it's making things. Everyone's looking for the easy way to creativity. That's my beef. So everyone wants to write a book in 2 weeks with AI. Everybody wants to, like, I feel like there's no sense of creativity anymore. There's just ask ChatGPT, and it just drives me nuts because nobody wants to think anymore. So, okay, so that's my personal vendetta. I guess the question is, can you share a revolution that you helped the company through, that you saw someone crying wolf, like, oh, the internet is coming and it's going to break everything, and that you helped a company succeed through that basically somebody cried wolf and you're like, nah, we're still going to be around after that happens?
Yes. So, our career has been about being early, but not too early to big shifts. And the most recent is actually AI, but it started with the internet. So we started our first company, my first company, when I was a sophomore at Northwestern University. And it was solving an issue for campus newspapers, which was how do you kind of get more content that's of interest to college students. And then, golf.com was basically bringing companies onto the internet for the first time. And then Buddy Media was very much about kind of the attention shift away from traditional media into the stream-based social media, right? So instead of watching TV, you're kind of just watching your stream and all the content is coming to you. And our take on all of it is that these are kind of usually evolutions, not revolutions, until they're revolutions, right? So these are kind of like 10-year cycles to really mature. And so, very few technologies were existential to the world, right? Like maybe nuclear, maybe there's some others that could be, but usually it hurts a few companies. So if you're the maker of a horse carriage, you're like kind of have to pivot, right? And the world moves on. And so the internet didn't get rid of kind of commerce. It just kind of gave companies the ability to tap into unlimited markets. Social media didn't get rid of marketing. It helped you kind of market to friends and friends of friends. And so AI, at the end of the day, yes, is a kind of productivity helper, a co-pilot, so to speak. the bigger impact is going to come from the productivity it's going to give people back and give companies back. So for one of our companies, the healthcare staffing company, we haven't hired business development representatives. We use an AI BDR, AI business development rep program that we built that basically fires off messages to companies saying, hey, we see that you've posted these jobs. We have 3 candidates, if we have them, it'll send it, who we think could fit that job. Right. And so all of a sudden we're sending 4,000 messages to get 20 meetings set up to hopefully land 5 customers with a business that the average customer ticket is $30,000. Like that, those 4 customers are like, or 5 customers are really valuable. Right. And so, yes, I'm not hiring junior salespeople who would sit in a traditional boiler room dialing for dollars. But I believe there are going to be plenty of jobs opening up for those people selling other stuff.
Love it. Tiffany, what's your question for Mike and Kass?
Hi, good morning. I'm a physician and I'm in the healthcare space. I'm an oncologist, actually. So I am looking to increase my visibility in the field and to basically help to educate and empower women with cancer. My question to you is, as a new entrepreneur, I'm having trouble making the decision of what comes next. How would you recommend that I look at sequencing the different options that I have on my plate in terms of publishing my book, my online course? Should I be speaking? I have a podcast. I have to be on social media, and I'm still a one-man show. So every morning I sort of wake up and try and figure out what am I supposed to do next.
This is not going to be totally the answer that you're going to love, but when you're an entrepreneur and you're trying to get your brand out there more, you're going to have to look at, your biggest resource is your time, right? So it's just you. So you have limited time. So the question is, what will make the biggest impact? And once you, like, for instance, if your number one goal is to, what is it? First of all, tell me what the number one goal is of what you're trying to do with your business.
I'm trying to educate and empower women with cancer to get the best possible outcome from their treatment and their physicians.
So to me, that sounds like you have to be a storyteller. It has to be messages. Maybe Mike's going to come up with something different. But I would say that everything you do with thought leadership and then creating a community in which you start to talk to everyone and start to build that community. Like one of the things that we did is we want to get this message out about entrepreneurs, right? Like how can we help entrepreneurs? So we created the Founders Farm. Everybody just buys one book. They get in the Founders Farm. We meet regularly, like every other week, and we just talk about just kind of like this. What are the problems and issues? You have to start doing those kind of things. And the part that you're not going to like is you're going to have to do everything all at once. And it's going to take, I know that, like, first of all, social media is very hard. It's a full-time job. I want to tell everybody that. But I think there's things that you can do that are less cumbersome and less tech-oriented that will help to grow your community. And I bet you, Mike, do you have ideas about this?
Yeah. So
I knew he would.
What I would do is sit down and say, like, what is an attainable vision? There's some influencers who are like, I want to help 1 billion entrepreneurs. Right? Okay, like that's a cool vision. I would define it. So I want to help like 100, 1,000, 10,000, name the number and be specific because there's only so much you could do this year. And I like specific goals. Like we have specific goals right now. Like we're doing this book. We have our own V2 mom. That's what we use: vision, values, methods, obstacles, metrics. And we want to be a bestseller, USA Today or New York Times. Okay, what are the top 3 things we have to do to be a bestseller? Well, we got to write a book. Like that's kind of important. And then the problem with books is no one markets them. So we've like really leaned into marketing. And, between family, we've sold like 8,500 copies, which isn't quite there. Like we're happy about that, right? Because we're first-time authors, but we're still hustling. We have till June 3rd. And we said that we're going to do podcasts. We're going to do live events. We did a 3-hour live stream with Gary Vee on National Shovel Day, a holiday we made up to celebrate entrepreneurs. Put together bulk packages, did all this stuff. And I think with your business, if you could say that, like, you can't help 1 billion people unless you help 100 first, right? So, like, what is that number that kind of puts you on the path? And people with like small goals have done incredible things. You know, on the back of the book, one of the references is from a woman named Mel Robbins, who, when she agreed to do our book, let's just say wasn't as big as she is right now. We probably could never even reach her like today. She was $800,000 in debt, and she's just like, I'm just going to get out of debt. Like, I'm not going to be multimillionaire like I am, like she is today. But that was her goal. Accomplish that and then move on to the next one. Otherwise, you get buried in, like, you could do so much stuff, but you're not really accomplishing anything. If that makes sense. Like, Gary is all in right now, Gary Vaynerchuk, with his Chrome Tops trading card business. And he spends 90% of his time on that business right now, even though it does very little revenue. And he has a $500 million revenue business at VaynerMedia and the other VaynerX companies, right? So he has to sacrifice something in order to get that one where it needs to be. And that's how we all have to think. And to me, it's an easier way to operate. Like, I can't look at these huge, unreachable goals. I can look at like mini goals on the way to that journey or destination.
Thank you, guys. Vincent, what's your question for Mike and Kass?
We have a nonprofit organization here out in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, beautiful Amish country. Specific goal of the nonprofit is to create dignified, sober living in a professional environment, and have it be inclusive and affordable. Kind of a tall order. Like I said, it's a nonprofit organization. It's a passion project that I personally launched in response to other professionals in my personal life who are no longer here with us due to fentanyl, suicide, and other forms of addiction. And what I really saw happening in this space were people who really just couldn't afford something. It was either uber expensive or just not a place that you would send your worst enemy to go recover with dignity. And so my specific question is, in launching this nonprofit piece first, my goal is to get out in front of investors to be able to invest in the higher end services around outpatient clinical health. And in order to do that, obviously, there's not a whole lot of sizzle. A lot of times in nonprofit for investors, how would you best position something that's taking the lead on the nonprofit, but then you want to ancillarily launch a for-profit and attract investors to do it?
So I would launch with the for-profit first. The best way to kind of create massive impact is to make boatloads of cash, because it creates a virtuous cycle where if you have a business, and I think that in your area there is a business around what you're talking about, that then funds anything and everything else you want to do. It could be fully integrated, like Salesforce and Buddy Media, where like we integrated philanthropy into everything we did.
Yeah.
You could be a B Corp, or you basically can just say, I'm going to, for the next 5 years, build an awesome business with the idea that potentially I could take some money off the table. And then you fund a foundation that could provide always on capital. We have gravitated toward nonprofits that look like businesses. And when I say that, they're 100% accountable, they're audited, you know where the money's going, and they don't have galas for the most part. So they're not like these ego projects where people just give money to like sit on a board. They're real, like, Cycle for Survival, 400 million went to actual cancer research. 100% of every dollar goes into research. It's audited. They report on the breakthroughs, and millions of people have now been impacted by a lot of that research 18 years later. It's really hard to raise money for a nonprofit that's just starting out unless you know really rich people or you're just born lucky, like with a rich family.
Let's get Nick unmuted. What's your question for Kass and Mike?
Hey guys, thank you guys so much for this. I've been learning so much and I definitely want a book, so I'm going to do that. Hopefully I can get it signed just to keep me inspired. So Michael, you talked about something that's kind of going on with me right now, which is like the misery side. Just the 30-second story. I have a company called Pay Later Renovator where we help our clients declutter, upgrade, stage, and we get paid at the close of escrow. And I hope I don't start crying, but long story short, I've been doing this for about 3 years, and I've had so many issues with contractors and things, but not like work-wise. Like one tried to drug and rape me. Another guy was just being nasty to me because I didn't want to talk about his penis. Another one tried to blackmail me because he was doing something wrong with Windows and could have lost his license. So he's like, I'm holding your check unless you write an email. And I stood up for myself. You're not going to bully me. And then some of the workers, didn't know that I had someone that spoke Spanish. And, like F that black bee. And I went to Chat GPT and said, am I attracting this? What's going on? And they said, well, the construction and real estate industries are full of narcissists, and you just being a woman alone, not doing anything will attract this. And now I'm owed like $186,000. And I literally just signed up to drive Uber. And I'm just miserable right now. I love helping people. I love what I do. I'm proud of the work that we've done. We've helped clients gain millions and millions of dollars in 3 years in equity that they wouldn't have got. We also teach them their organization style, whether they're a bee, a caterpillar, a butterfly, a ladybug, just to really help. But I'm just having a rough time because there aren't any women really in my industry. People see me as either who does she think she is to have a business, which is insane. They'll try and keep one guy literally got upset because I wouldn't hire him again. And I had to lock the door behind me and call my mom. And that's it. I'm just going through a lot of misery with this right now. And it's because I'm a woman, because I'm Black, and they just think that they can. I have been solution. Sorry, I didn't mean to cry. I'm at my wit's end.
Listen, I'm almost crying. I am crying, actually. So first of all, sorry. What you've had to endure is nothing that any person, business or not, should have to endure. You don't attract criminal behavior.
Exactly.
And so you may think that, you may fear that, but this is not on you. This is on kind of just awful people. The practical side of me, which I don't even know if we want to go there, is I think you need a great lawyer or collections partner to make these people's lives miserable.
Yeah, I agree.
Because if you don't fight back, you will just get bullied by these narcissists.
Yeah.
And I think our political discourse has given a lot of people, air cover. And I don't want to get into politics necessarily, but the discourse isn't as civil as it used to be. And I think we all could agree with that, which then gives people the air cover to take it, into their life. And so there's criminal behavior here. And given the amount of money that needs to be collected, there are agencies and lawyers who just focus on doing that on a contingent basis. I mean, God, you don't want to go even further into debt, trying to collect money that is owed. Kass, anything else that you could add?
I mean, first of all, I'm just so very sorry because this is I just want to make sure that we repeat this. And I think everyone on this phone call will say, this is not anything you're attracting. But currently in the world, and I feel this every single day, there is a lot of discrimination still against women. And you're a woman of color and you're a strong woman who is doing something that is super needed and helpful. And that intimidates a lot of people, men and women. So they're trying to push you around. And I want everybody on this call to say that we are behind you and we are giving you strength. You need to find a collections agency that will do this on contingency. And yes, they will take a small piece of it, but let's make those other people suffer. Like that has to happen. And, I want Mike and I off this call to think of some other things that perhaps we can think of to try to help you, but it is not okay.
Where are you
Everything
located?
Yeah.
I should have asked earlier.
I'm in Redondo Beach, California, kind of about 15, 20 minutes from LAX near Manhattan Beach.
So LA, okay.
And
I do
you
have contracts where we can do NODs and things like that. And, I'm sending second letter notices today to the guy who tried to blackmail me, listing all of the laws that are broken. And if he doesn't enforce them, I will be sending it over to the state licensing board. And it said that I'm in a guilt loop because I know people will lose their ability to take care of themselves. However, they don't care about me having the ability to take care of myself. And then these boundaries and this sexual harassment stuff is just...
It's just gross and disgusting and uncalled for. Yes.
Yeah. And I'm literally like a Christian celibate woman who wanted to be a nun. So for me, it's even more, it's...
Yeah. I mean, it's just not right. Someone here on the chat, Michelle Barkley, is actually sending you, I work with a debt collecting agency for my small business and I can share the info with you. And she reached out and she's giving you her email address. If you can copy that, Nick, I think that would be great.
There's a lot of love in the chat for you there, Nick, as well. I don't know if you can see it from your phone, but there's a lot of love for you and support. People offering to reach out for help for a bunch of different things, including the collection agency. So I would definitely check that out. And if you want to post in the school group that we have for anybody else who wants to join in and potentially help, that we can connect offline. The fact that you still want to buy their book and you're driving Uber is just speaks to
it's just amazing.
Your kindness.
Send us your address. We'll send you. We'll
send you the book. Don't buy it.
An issue.
We'll get that.
And also, don't you also think that at the end of the day, there is that I just don't listen to Chat GPT on trying to analyze who your brain is. That's just not, they can say, I know you're looking for why is this happening? And maybe you can instead say it shouldn't be happening. And you can believe all of us on this call that it should not be happening and it's nothing with you.
I mean, one of the ideas that I just had is we're new to this community. It's obviously a really special community. So we have entrepreneurs helping other entrepreneurs with not only business, but personal stuff. If somehow you could get us your address, we'll send a book to everyone on this call. There's no reason, we don't need to make money off this call. We're happy to be here, happy to be a part of the community.
Thank you guys so much. That's awesome. Okay, I think we have time for maybe one or two more. Let's see what we've got. Harry is up next. Okay, Harry, what do you got for Kass and Mike?
Hi, great to have you on here. I really appreciate your time. I'm glad that you guys are in my neck of the woods. I'm in Jersey. I love pizza too, by the way. But anyway, so I have a question for you right around focusing on protection. So how important is it for a company if they stumble across something that's working to protect your idea, or is it something where if you're under 10 million, it's just really not worth the time to protect?
So it's always worth the time to do a few things, which is copyright, trademark. Do the searches before you launch. Obviously, you don't want to violate anyone else's. That's relatively cheap these days. I'm not a big believer in patents unless it truly is breakthrough. And a lot of the patents are just design patents or kind of small evolutions. They take a lot of time. They take a lot of money. The biggest lesson we learned is that if you don't protect your own intellectual property, especially copyrights, trademarks, you lose them. And so it's on you to kind of send cease and desist letters if there is confusion in the marketplace. Now, if it's, some kid's lemonade stand using the Money Rules brand, it's like, whatever, like you may not do it, but if it's, CNBC now launches Money Rules and you have like the IP that you've used for many years, it's painful to do, but you kind of want to protect it. If it goes on for a certain amount of time, they can make the argument that, they lost it because they didn't defend it. But don't spend too much time, like play offense. Like it's hard enough to do these businesses when you're like all in on offense. If you spend too much time on defense, it's not going to be a great use of your time unless playing defense is existential. And then you have to, right?
Okay, that's great.
Very cool. All right. Thank you. Okay, Nathan, what's your question for Kass and Mike?
Hey guys, thanks for being on here. Since you started golf.com and sold it, I think I saw you're owners of a par 3 franchise team. So I got to believe that you guys are golfers. Is that correct?
Kass doesn't play anymore.
Oh, no.
I took off a couple years just because it was driving me a little nuts. It's kind of like being an entrepreneur. You have a lot of little misses and then one good shot. So I had to take off a little bit.
That's good. Well, I own a golf academy in Vancouver, Canada, and have built it in the brand into one of the top academies in the country. And but at this point, I'm really trying to get away from and minimize my one-on-one lessons and scale to kind of more impacting more people. And so I've been kind of growing my YouTube channel, starting that with Evan's team's help, and also starting to build an online program similar to Edmund's program here, but for golf coaches. And the goal is to, kind of help instructors around the world grow their in-person businesses, their online lesson businesses, help build their brands, their social media, kind of everything to help build a successful modern kind of golf coaching business. And so I'm just wondering if you were building kind of something like this today, how would you go about scaling it as a solo business owner? And would you be focusing more on the community, the content inside, the paid ads to get coaches in, or something else?
What will you be selling going forward? Is it a train the trainer type program that you mentioned?
Yeah, essentially, I find like the market is so big for golf instruction these days, but there's still so many golf instructors who are just not making very much money. They just don't know how to structure their lessons, build lesson plans, offer lesson options, or go online and teach people around the world and social media, all sorts of things.
So there's a company called Punch Up, which does this for stand-up comedians. And so there are a lot of stand-up comedians, and they all want to create content. They all want to offer like ticket sales. They all want to promote their stuff. And it was launched by, a great entrepreneur, invested, our very close friend, Howard Lindzen, invested in it. He owns StockTwits, among other things. And they provide like the Shopify picks and shovels for a very specific audience, right? And what they built is not just the back end, but it's a content engine now as well, where it's like stand-up comedians can contribute their videos to like, Punch Up's feeds, right? So if just a consumer want to come in and just see some funny stuff, it's there, right? So, but it's just comedy. I feel like if you could identify potentially everything you need to run a teaching business, from scheduling to, you have all of your drills that you could just fire off from, you have payments, you have subscriptions, you have merch potentially that people like students can buy, like or not only merch, but like training aids, like figure out what the MVP is and start really small with just like, we have a company called Arqueta that does this for fitness trainers. And they started with individual trainers, then they went to like small yoga studios, and now they're working with big gyms, right? You could start with individual pros, then move to other academies, and then work with like huge, like David Ledbetter, Pinehurst, like whoever the biggest is. So that's one idea. And then the other idea is there a franchise model where you can brand a system and other teachers can buy it for like $999, and it's everything they need to run their, like, to teach. So it's like your system, they could add their stuff to it, and you handle payment. So you could get like 3% of all fees that run through it, right? So it's like upfront transaction. That's where my mind went. Having said all that, probably just screwed you up, so don't listen to me. But that's just off the top of my head.
That's amazing. Brandon, what's your question for Kass and Mike?
I really appreciate you guys all being here, and it is a really big honor to be in front of such a amazing crowd. I'm like a small six-figure entrepreneur. We're edging up against multiple six figures, and I have some things that are working really well that I've really topped out, where we're top of that category. And now we're looking at moving into other categories like YouTube and such. But like, how do you figure out how much of the limited resources you have, the limited team you have to risk in a new category or a new anything, right? Or even tweaking pricing? Like, how do you decide, like, well, this price has been working so great. Should we, do you just incrementally raise things, or are you just like really changing up the pitch, from time to time and just kind of tossing it up?
So I could take the pricing piece, which is most entrepreneurs underprice their value. We just saw this with an entrepreneur we've worked very closely with in the mental health space. And he's an epic therapist who also has created a whole system to get young people on their feet without going to like, wilderness therapy and some of his other programs. And forever he charged $250 an hour, and he's saving kids' lives. And we thought he was undercharging, and we recommended he go to, I think, $400. And like, no one even blinked an eye. And so I think the best way to raise prices is try it first on the clients you don't really like as much. And if they churn, they churn, right? But, get some data. Like, do they even notice? Do they care? Opening up new areas is hard. And the way I like to recommend that entrepreneurs do it is build the demand before you open it up. Like, even Liquid Death, they tested 5,000 different brands before they landed on one. And it tested so much higher. And they had collected so many names from just an ad saying coming soon, right, on Instagram, where people would just sign up, and they measured how many people signed up. And so if you could get either charter clients on board or make the announcement and have people sign up and, have pent up demand that then when you open it, it's there. If it's harder if it's just a marketing thing like YouTube, that you mentioned. And to me, I just think less is more there. We're trying to win on Instagram and TikTok. Like, that's where we're putting most of our efforts, because I'm not Gary Vee. We don't have 30 people like doing social media for us, right? We have a little help, like video editing, but very limited resources. And so I would just focus on what you think is going to give you the biggest bang for the buck, and be okay with not doing everything. Just crush what you're doing. And if it's not working, like, throw that out. There are no sacred cows in any of our businesses.
I would also say that some of the ways that we've helped service companies launch other lines of business is they keep doing what they're doing. They increase prices to their current, business line that it's actually working. And then they dabble in it over there to see if it's actually something like a new product line or service that actually works. And that's how we start to launch. So you're kind of hedging and you're doing a lot at the same time, but that's how we've actually created that demand that Mike's talking about.
Guys, you guys are awesome. It's been like crazy how quickly time flies. I've been on YouTube since 2008, and I've seen so many people kind of come and go. And I really hope that you guys continue doing what you're doing.
Thank you.
Whether it's YouTube or anywhere else, just keep at it, keep helping entrepreneurs. The message you have is amazing. The content is amazing. Your hearts are amazing. And I just really hope that you stick at it. I know you will, but I just hope that you continue to do it so that in 5 years we look back like that was so awesome. For this group here, Movement Makers, but also for my wider kind of YouTube audience, how can we best support you? Obviously the book, where do you want people to go? What's the best thing that we can do to help you?
I mean, the best thing you can do is, suggest that people go to Amazon.com and get the book. You can look it up, Shoveling Shit, easy to do. And, get the word out that we're really actually authentically trying to help. And I do really, really believe, because this was a labor of love. This is not something that we were trying to, look, we're not going to make money on it. I should also tell you this, that 10% of all the profits are going to Cycle for Survival.
No, all the revenue.
I'm sorry, all the revenue are going to Cycle for Survival.
Which is all of the profits.
Which is all the profits, which I was trying to get to. Thank you, hon. But the point is that we did this because we want to help people. And so just spread the word if you can.
Like what we're all talking about is uncertainty. And uncertainty leads to fear and doubt. And I think our goal is to do what we did ourselves, which is help you kind of embrace the uncertainty and thrive inside it and outmaneuver everyone else around you. And it's not necessarily getting rid of uncertainty or fear, even though, what we discussed with Nick, like we got to get rid of that. But, most of this uncertainty and fear that we're dealing with is stuff that we can operate within. And then you start making better decisions, informed decisions, confident decisions. And then confidence builds on confidence, right? And so what's interesting about every question that was asked, you knew the answer. Like we didn't need to be here telling you the answer. Deep down, you know the answer, right? And so tap into what you already know, because that's the mindset of, uncertainty is not going to get us. And it's a confidence that I think for everyone will transcend the business, and you'll be able to just operate better in life and know kind of what are opportunities that that you should pursue. And we've met incredible people in this journey of like getting to where we are, like the book sales. Please reach out. We'd like to be connected. Hopefully this is the first of many that we do with Evan. This is a really special community that we feel like schmucks not being a part of it earlier. But thank you for your time, and hopefully I see you all again soon, virtually or in real life.
Appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. Good luck salsa dancing with Alex, and
can't wait.
and on the book launch. Super excited. To watch former Kajabi president Jonathan Cronson talk to my mastermind group and fix your pricing, check the video right there next to me. I think you'll love it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there. I have a distinct honor to have Jay Cron here to give us some wisdom. He is the former president of Kajabi.